Hello and welcome to the Art of Caro. In this video I'm going to be making Simplicity 1254 by the pattern maker Leanne Marshall, I think, or the designer. I don't know what term I should be using. And I'm going to make the shorter version, so guess it's called the jacket here. And I have made a mock-up in size 12 and I think the fit was good, so I'm not going to do any alterations. I wanted to have some more second layer clothes, and I think this is going to fit in nicely. I got this nice wool fabric. It is a blend, so it has some synthetic fibers as well, I think, but it's not super high percentage, and it made it really easy to pre-wash on the wool setting with a wool soap. So yeah, really lovely. It has a bit of a sparkle to it with some like silver threads, and I really love it. I got it while I was at the Stockholm Sewing Festival / Sewing Convention this last fall, and I've been really excited to start working with it. And I'm going to be lining it in this flannel sheet that I got at the sale. So it's going to be a jacket that's mostly meant for indoor use, but I think this can be used for fall and early winter and early spring as well, because I think this is going to be rather warm. But it's one more garment in my pursuit for a second layer. So I don't want to keep babble on too much, so let's get into the video. I finally cut out all the pieces for the jacket, and it took me forever. I did it a bit by bit during 4 days because it totally wrecks my back and neck if I do it for too long, since I have to stand bent forward. And there was a bunch of pieces for this garment. It's my least favorite part of sewing, and I don't get why I always fall for patterns that includes a whole bunch of pieces. But anyway, hey! It's okay. Hey! Yeah. All my pattern pieces are in this box because I was going to lay them out, but it was so many pieces and I just don't have the energy for it, so I'm just going to show you on the pattern. These are all the pieces. Yeah, we have a snuggly cat that wants to be on camera. Yeah, so this is all the pieces, and I cut out one of the outside fabric and one of the lining for everyone except part 7 and part 9. Part 9 I used a different flannel fabric, so it would be black for the visible part. And then I cut out 2 of number 7 out of the interlining, and 1 out of the interlining for number 9 as well. So it was like 19 pieces I cut out. And then after I put together the lining, I will make inside pockets, because the pockets that comes with patterns are a bit small for me, so I want patterns on the inside of the jacket. So now I'm ready to get sewing. I started out with attaching the interfacing to the front of the garment, and then I'm stay stitching the neck hole of the front piece and pinning on the zipper. And then I'm stitching down the zipper, and this is something I will come to regret later on, but I will not spoil the surprise. Then I'm pinning on my pockets. The lining piece to the front and the outside fabric piece to the side front piece. Okay, so a lesson in reading instruction properly and not moving too fast. I stitched on all my pocket pieces at regular seam allowance when I was supposed to sew it at 1 centimeter seam allowance. So now I'm going to seam rip them and restitch them, and I'm not going to film that because my camera battery is about to die. But just that happened and I'm going to fix it. And I'm kind of annoyed with myself, but also it happens. At least I didn't cut into anything that's more difficult to fix. So yeah, I'm going to fix that now. Okay, now I'm pressing out the seam allowance towards the pocket and pinning that down. And then I'm top stitching within the pocket piece, attaching the seam allowance to the pocket. And then I am pinning up that side seam with the pocket. And then I'm stitching around the side seam and the pocket. And when I stitched down the seam allowance to the pocket, maybe I should have said understitched. I don't quite know. After I've stitched along the pocket, I also stitch a bit up into the pocket opening, just to create more of a bag of the pocket instead of that just round shape. Then I'm stay stitching the neck hole of the back piece, and then I'm pinning the back side pieces to the back piece. Then I'm stitching the side back pieces to the back piece and trimming the seam allowance and pressing the seam allowance. And then I am pinning the shoulder seams and the side seams. And then I'm stitching the side seams and the shoulder seams, and then I'm trimming the seam allowance. And for the shoulder too. And then I realized I need to finish my seam allowances, and then I zigzag stitch around all my seam allowances because the wool fabric was it was fraying. Then I'm pressing all my seams again, making sure the pocket is facing the right way and looks all nice. Then I'm sewing 2 rows of easing stitches at the top of the sleeve. And 2 rows of easing stitches at one side of the sleeve, where the elbow is going to go, sort of. And then I'm pinning together the under sleeve seam, underarm seam. And then I'm easing together that elbow portion, making sure that there are no bumps. And the wool was very forgiving, especially when I pressed it later on. Then I'm stitching that seam and trimming the seam allowance, and then I zigzag stitched it, and I didn't film that. And then I'm pressing
that seam and attaching the sleeves to the garment, carefully easing the sleeve in and making sure there are no bumps there as well. And then I'm stitching the sleeve to the body portion of the garment, being very careful. And then I'm doing a second line of stitches a bit further in the seam allowance, and then I'm trimming the rest of the seam allowance down. And zigzag stitching around that seam allowance just because of the fraying of the wool fabric. And then I'm pressing the shoulder of the sleeve to make sure the easing is all smooth, and it turned out really nice. The wool responds really nicely to pressing. And then I repeated all my those steps with the lining. And then I'm attaching the lining to the outer fabric at the front. And then I'm stitching the front seams and stopping a bit above the hem. And then I'm folding in the facing portion as the instructions tells me to. As you can see, I had to refer to my instructions there. Okay, 2 quick things, and please ignore Sokka howling at the door in the background because he wants to go for a walk. I forgot to put pockets in the lining, and I could sort of manipulate the garment and put them on right now if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to skip it. I tested my cell phone in the pockets that I have, and it sort of fits. It sticks out a little bit, but it's like secure, so it's fine. And I tend to put pockets in my skirts and pants, so it will probably be fine. If I want to add pockets on the inside later on, I can do it by hand. Yeah, he's really noisy today. And second, I followed along with the pattern and sort of didn't consider when the facing seam allowance needs to be finished off, and there wasn't really a point where it said to trim it in the instruction, and usually when it says trim the seam allowance, I do that and then finish the seam. Then I'm following this pattern anyway, and it hasn't said that for this, so it's just left like that, but I kind of want to finish it because the wool fabric frays a bit, so I want to secure it as much as possible. So I'm just going to kind of awkwardly trim it down and zigzag stitch it, and I'm kind of feeling a bit rough today, so I'm not going to film that part. Just know that I did it, and you've seen me finish seams earlier in this video, and this is just going to be a more awkward version. If you do this jacket, just do it before you press the facing to lay as it's supposed to. So yeah, was it anything else I wanted to update you all on? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I'm supposed to do with the hem. Step 12 is sort of difficult for me to understand, so I'm going to finish the seam allowance and then I'm going to continue working on figuring step 12 out. So let's see how the hemming goes. So I clipped into my seam allowance at the hem point, and then I stitched over that a bit into the hem, and then I trimmed some more. It's really confusing. I can't really explain what I was doing there. It's really confusing in the instructions as well, and I struggled a lot with that. And then I'm pinning my lining to the hem and stitching that. And then I'm turning garment the right side out. Before I pinned the hem, I had to cut off like 2.5 centimeters of the lining to make it as the instructions said it would be. And I don't know if I missed something when I transferred my pattern from the original pattern paper to my pattern paper, because I transfer my size to separate paper, and I usually transfer all the markings, but if there was some note of this, I don't know, but it says in the instructions that the lining is going to be 2.5 centimeters shorter than the outer fabric, but since you use the same pieces for everything aside from the front to make your lining pieces, I don't see how that's possible. So I had to trim off everything aside from the front pieces, and now I'm concerned that I assembled the front pieces to the rest of the pieces wrongly, since I could make them line up to the side front pieces, and they were supposedly 2.5 centimeters shorter. It doesn't look like it's going to be a problem right now, but I hope it won't cause it to be a weird puckering effect on the inside later on. We shall see. But anyway, I did the trimming of that off screen because I just really got into it when I figured out what I had to do, and I totally forgot to set up the camera. I'm sorry. So yeah, now I've sewn up the hem and stuff like that, so now I'm going to press the hem and the pieces. And I also wanted to talk to you all about the sleeves, because I completely jumped over the step where you're supposed to trim the sleeve length and hem the sleeves and stuff like that, and that's because I want to, after the other parts of the main body of the coat is assembled and lined up and everything like that, I want to trim the sleeves and make a couple of cuffs for the sleeves in my black flannel. And sorry if you can hear my washing machine in the background. I just wanted to get this filmed before I forgot what I wanted to say. Yeah, so anyway, I want to make a couple of cuffs to for the sleeves, so that the wool fabric won't touch my skin in the wrists, where I have especially sensitive skin, since I noticed, even as I work with it, that my skin find the texture of the wool really itchy, so it will be fine as long as it's not straight up against my skin. So the collar hood thing, since that's flannel, is going to be fine, and the cuffs will protect my wrists. And yeah, so that's why I haven't done the steps for the sleeves. Yeah, so I'm going to press the garment now. Yeah, so I realized that my zipper had its teeth facing the wrong way, so it wasn't the same way as the zipper in the instructions, so I had to switch around where I had attached the zipper. So I had to unpick the zipper I had stitched in, which means when I sew in the zipper, the other zipper again at the same place, I will have a visible seam line, which you are meant to have, but I was hoping to avoid that. But yeah, I can live with that. So this is me figuring out the zipper situation, and I got it to work. The zipper is sort of folded over in a really interesting way. And then I am putting some interfacing on my lining piece of the collar. Just ironing that down. It's really hard because this hood of the jacket is really big, so it was hard to attach the interlining or interfacing. And then I'm stitching a stay stitch in the middle of the hood, and then I am folding down that seam allowance and pressing it and trimming down the excess. Then I'm attaching the outer fabric to the lining, and I'm pinning along the curved side and stitching it. It's a really big curve. And then I'm trimming the seam allowance, and I'm cutting notches in it. And then I zigzag stitch around it before I understitched the seam allowance to the lining. And then I am pressing the hood. Then I am pinning each side of the more straight side of the hood on each side where it was marked. This part was also a bit complicated. And then I am trimming that seam allowance where I stitched and turning it right side out and press it. And then I'm pinning the outer fabric part of the hood to the neck of the garment. And then I'm stitching that. And then I'm pinning the lining portion of the hood to the neck edge as well, leaving a gap. And then I'm stitching that. I'm leaving that gap where I folded it down. The part I did in the beginning of making the hood. Then I'm trimming off the seam allowance. And then I'm zigzag stitching the seam allowance to keep it from fraying. And then I'm turning everything right side out. And it was really fiddly and a lot of fabric to be working with. And then I'm pressing the collar. And pressing down that pre-sewn portion, and then I'm pinning that part at the neck, and I baste it together and hand stitch it. Then I remove the basting and start stitching on a really large snap. And then I'm stitching on the other side. Okay, so I'm testing the coat, and I don't want to show you too much until the reveal, but I noticed the color, and excuse all the cat hair, I need to remove that, but this part keeps slipping down and I don't really like how that looks. So I'm just going to put a smaller second clasp just here. Because I'm planning to wear it like this mostly and I don't really like this look. So it won't bother me that it's visible on the outside. If you keep it open, these ones are as well. So I'm just going to put it right here so that it looks a bit neater. Yeah. So I'm going to do that now, and or maybe later. I need to charge my camera, so I would have to do that off screen. Yeah, we'll see if I show it or not, but know that that's what I'm planning to do, and make the cuffs. So I'm trimming down the sort of sleeve, the part where the cuff is gonna go on the sleeve. Then I'm attaching the second snap I was talking about. And then I am pinning together my cuff piece. And I'm stitching that and trimming the seam allowance and zigzag stitching that just for good measure. And then I'm pressing the cuff and folding it so right sides are out, so wrong sides together. And then I'm pressing the fold. And then I'm pinning the raw edge of the cuff to the raw edge of the sleeve. And then I'm stitching the cuff to the sleeve. And then I'm stitching a second line around the cuff and then trimming off the excess seam allowance. And then I'm zigzag stitching around the seam allowance. And then I'm folding up the cuff towards the sleeve and press it down. And then I am just tacking down the cuff to the sleeve to make it stay in place. And then the jacket is finished. And that's the jacket. Since I wasn't feeling well, I couldn't get out and filming when it actually was spring or in the late winter, but it is perfect for the sort of transitional period between late winter, early spring, and all through spring when it was still cold, and we had sort of a cold snap here in Sweden where we got snow and stuff, and it was perfect for that because it wasn't cold enough for an actual winter coat, I thought. So it's great, and when it was winter I wore it inside when it was really cold, and it was lovely for that as well. So I'm so happy with how it turned out. It could have been a bit more fitted, but I think it's good, especially if I want to wear it when it's colder and have something a bit more bulky underneath. So it was a successful project, and that's really all I have to say about it. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more of my videos in the future, you may want to subscribe and hit the notification bell. May the stars shine upon your faces and have a glorious day. Thank you and goodbye for now.